So I analyzed a data set on social media addiction. This data set includes about 7,500 people, which is a lot. It includes three genders, male, other, and female, and the ages range from about 18 to 35. So first, you can see in this data set on the data table that there are daily screen time, social media hours, gaming hours, work study hours, sleep hours, notifications per day, apps opens per day, weekend screen time, stress level, academic work impact, addiction level, and addictive label. So there was a lot of factors where there was room for analysis and room to compare many of these data sets. So to start, for univariate analysis, I took two of the sets, which were daily screen time and daily sleep hours, just to see the mean pretty much is what I really wanted to do this for. But you can see for the mean that the daily screen time is 7.5, of around 7.5. This feature is also really cool because it gives you the variance, standard deviation, all the quartiles, the percentiles, median, mode, and this was just a nice visual to see data, all the factors. And then you see for sleep hours that the mean was 6.7, which is crazy to me because its screen time is higher than the average sleep, which figure that this is a social media addiction analysis data set, but still crazy to realize. So this is just one of the factors that I for the univariate, two of the factors that I wanted to analyze, and then I put these into more visual representations using histogram. So you see for the daily screen time in this histogram, you see that the data doesn't really vary that much. We see that the highest was about 10, while the average was, you can see 7.5, but it's pretty even throughout. And besides the last point being the lowest at 11 to 12 hours, which is good because that's crazy if it's that much. And then for the sleep hours, we see that it's pretty much the same as well. You see 6.7, 6.8, that's about the average, but the numbers really don't vary that much. It's actually crazy that 8.9 to 9 hours is the lowest, and then we see the highest being 6.87 hours. So you can see that there's not a lot of variance within data sets, but the distributions were fairly balanced. This suggests that both the sleep and the screen time and sleep hours follow consistent patterns across the data set. So next I conducted a two bivariate analysis to examine the relationship between two pairs of variables. So for the first one, I took age and average of gaming hours. This was just interesting to me because gaming hours, now I think of gaming like you're pretty much in middle school when you're gaming in my eyes, but I guess I'm wrong. So here we can see that I just thought it would be interesting to see how the ages, this high of ages 18 to 35, dealt with gaming hours, and if this was a big part had a big role in addiction. We see in this data set, again, the averages were not a lot of variance at all, but age 20 being the highest with over 2.1 hours a day, which is kind of a lot to sit down and game for 2 hours, I guess, to me. But yeah, they just remained relatively stable across the board. We see the lowest being around 34, which is pretty predictable. I feel like you don't really have much time to game in my eyes when you're 34, 35 in your 30s. But we see that gaming's not really strongly influenced by age as the data set remained the same. Now, the second bivariate analysis that I conducted was gender versus academic work impact. So again, the results did not vary significantly across these genders or across genders. I just wanted to see how social media impacted academic work, and then I thought it would be interesting to see if the gender really has a role in it. But we see that the males were the highest, but only about a 95 count difference between males and females being the second highest, or others being the second highest, and then females being the third highest. But we see there wasn't that much variance here either. This suggests that the academic performance is not likely determined by gender alone, but it's probably influenced by other factors that if we were to put into this pivot table, we could see better. If we were to count in maybe going back to our data set, you could add gender, academic, work pack, and impact, and maybe stress level would be a cool analysis, but I thought this was just interesting to me to see if gender really does have an influence. So then I also conducted 2 multivariate analyses. These just examined more complex relationships I factored in about 3 different data sets to each of these. For the first one, I did average daily screen time, gender, and stress levels. So I was really interested in seeing how stress levels are impacted by the use of screen time. Then I thought to compare it to the genders would be interesting to see if that really plays a big role. These results did show that individuals with higher stress levels consistently did have higher screen time across the board. So again, not a lot of variance at all. We see that all the numbers pretty much remain the same. Again, I used the average for many of these. So that does play a role in the numbers, but I thought it was interesting I assumed that stress levels would be higher if screen time was higher, and I was right, and we can see that in here, that stress levels did tend to be higher. We see that the most stress was in females, and then lowest one was, or we see males had the highest stress level and then female, or then other than female, which seems to be a consistent pattern when comparing the gender. It seems to go, females seem to be the lowest in the categories. And then the second multivariate analysis it examined multiple behavioral components, being age, average of daily screen time, average of social media hours, and average of gaming hours. So this kind of took into account all of the main factors that I examined part by part and just brought them in as a whole. Again, these results show low variance, meaning that these behaviors were relatively consistent throughout. We can see the numbers. If you look on the pivot table, they were pretty consistent. I mean, all in the 7s here, all in the 3s, and then this 1s and 2s. So high 1s and pretty much very consistent across the board as well. And then I thought that this chart would be just a good visual representation of the data. We see that pretty much the green is the average of gaming hours, orange is social media, and blue is daily screen time. You can just see that pretty much they rarely vary. They're very consistent, which seemed to happen in all our data sets when comparing the averages, which I just thought was very interesting. You can see in all of them that it's very consistent. Not much difference. I would say this had to be our most chart with the most variance in it, but across the board, everything seemed to vary pretty much similarly. Okay, so overall, I use Microsoft Excel, as I said before. I apply descriptive statistics to calculate measures such as the mean, mode, and median. These are just helpful in analyzing deeper on the data set. Histograms were used, bar charts were used, and pivot tables were really important in just bringing everything to visualization. I would say pivot tables were especially useful for organizing the data. They're a very helpful tool, and I recommend if you have a large data set that you're analyzing, use pivot tables because it's very interesting to see. You can play around with them and place different things in different categories, and I had to do that a few times. I would say with my second multivariate analysis, this one right here on the screen, I had to play around with it a lot, and I adjusted to different factors and different data sets and see which one would be good at comparing and really just bring that visual to life. But yeah, overall, this analysis highlights the importance of understanding how technology and certain behaviors can affect social media addiction. And I just thought it would be really interesting in this day and age. Social media is a huge thing, and I thought it would be really interesting to just study how serious this is to especially 18 to 35-year-olds, where many of their jobs and college can be influenced by social media. Thank you.